Sundays, then lots of people will say yes. And, or should we expand our hours? The answer is always yes. Not necessarily going to use it, because it might be somebody who, I've been a member for 15 years and I haven't been in your branch yet. But yeah, go ahead and expand hours. So it's one of those things.
Which is why I don't want to spend a little money.
Yeah, and I heard some really good comments on making sure that let's get some of the feedback that is from the people that do watch it, and how can we make sure that meeting the needs of the constituency out there that is watching. And so I heard some of that too, that was going to be important. I think we went down a couple of different bunny trails that talked about the equivalent, what I would say equivalent surveyor, trying to get equivalent of feedback and beta versions and stuff like that. And I don't think we really want to do that. That's one of the reasons we try to push this a little faster, that we kind of jump out to it. So that's really what I heard, and I think there was some disparity. Really, we've had conversations before about kind of a couple of different options, and then one of the options was presented. That's from a security camera, the equivalent of security cameras, if you will, that four different cameras. And, I'm hot and cold on that. I'd like to know a little bit more about it, and the reason is because we've got about how many security cameras we have, and some of them is really good, and sometimes I'm not going to say what situations where police want to see stuff like that, but one of the questions that they really want is, can you get this even clear? And all of our stuff, almost all of our stuff is HD, but there's some qualities that are better than others. So I don't know if we ever really landed on where that exactly plays out. I definitely agree that if I don't know how many cameras it needs to be, other than we want to be able to see the folks at the podium, we want to be able to see the board, and want to be able to integrate with, not necessarily integrate, but put a camera on the video monitor. So yeah, so that's what I think I heard it. In addition to not being very entertaining.
Actually, put a camera on a video, or doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know, because anytime I've ever done that, and maybe it's because you have the wrong kind of camera, but we want to solve that. Yeah. So what else?
I remembered what I had forgotten. It was something that was sparked by one of Mrs. Bullock's comments. The indexing piece. As you said, it doesn't happen by magic. It's not complicated. But as we know, every time you say yes to something, you say no to something else. And Ms. Dodd works a limited number of hours per week. So we have to decide how she's going to spend those hours. One of our options is if we determine that indexing is important and we put those chunks of video and audio out there, and she has to take some time to do that after she's trained appropriately. One of the things that we could do is have less detailed minutes. Our minutes are extremely detailed, and we've always done that because that was in the past primarily how people found out what the board was doing. In fact, there was a day, I remember that day, and you might as well, Ms. Bullock, because we've been around this district a while, that you could sign up for special delivery of board meeting minutes, and I signed up way back when my kids know. Yes, and they emailed them to you. They emailed the content to you every time. So the history of this district is that we've always had these detailed minutes. By the way, Robert's Rules of Order and the way we conduct our meetings do not require that at all. All you have to put in your meeting minutes, if we're having, like this one right now is 13A, video recording of board meetings. The board held a discussion regarding video recording of board meetings. The board directed the superintendent to do blah, blah, blah. Done. Vote. Yes, 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 no, or whatever, however it comes out. That's all you have to do. That's the minimum that you have to do. Now, I'm not suggesting we would go to perhaps such a minimalistic view, but the ones where basically what we're doing right now is we're capturing all the conversation. Mrs. Van Mayer asked this question, and Mr. Gregory said this, and we're capturing that conversation. I'm suggesting that we did that historically for a different purpose. Now, if we're changing the video, we could have Ms. Dodd spending her time in a different way. She would not have to put out such detailed meeting minutes, and that would accommodate the time that she might need for doing these other things.
I would not read them and you guys think that's the last one. Did I say that? If I could say this about, I think Stock said that. Oh, yeah.
Ms. Manning?
It's a lot to capture. So I guess, here's what I would ask.
I know, it doesn't sound like how I speak.
When we come down to this and we talk about this, here's what I would like to do. I intend to move a motion in a minute. I'll just give you a preview, all y'all, because you know what's coming. But the idea is, what kind of a cost could we live with for this? And I don't think we had an opportunity to really dig into that much this afternoon in the community linkage, and we didn't have a lot of members there, and we understood that that might be a possibility. But the thinking behind having that linkage this afternoon at 3:30 was because we knew every board member was available and we wouldn't have to wait till October. We literally, from my understanding when we were looking at calendars, just a quick look at calendars was telling us we might have to wait until October to have that conversation because of people's schedules and what's going on. Because we actually don't live here in this building, so.
Well, as close as it gets, we move Mr. Borland gone.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Borland's gone. There's some different things. There's some travel and things going on with different members of the board. So that was the idea. So we knew that we might not have a ton of people here, so we didn't really get into the cost. So I guess what I'm asking is, I want to hear some feedback on some ideas about what could you live with cost, or what could you not live with?
Colonel Hardy?
Yeah, I mean, I've said something similar to this in the past, but for me, the threshold was probably around, I don't know, $1,500 to $2,000. If it's over that, maybe come back to the board for some more discussion or approval. But below that, we might be spending more time and energy and resources thrashing around the question than we would actually just go ahead and get a system like that put in. So I don't know who would be in charge of that, but looking into some options, multiple cameras and good voice quality, which has been a problem in some other districts who do this. And if an estimate comes in somewhere around there, taking into account recurring costs, because this will have other impacts, in later years, that would be something we could probably live with. At least that's about my, thumbnail sketch estimate.
I think the framework for me is, my threshold is probably a little higher than that, in the sense that I think we want to do this, let's make sure that we meet the needs of, post it up on the monitors, that's something that can be actually captured. I also want to make sure that we're capturing the podium as well as capturing so there's things again at communication. We heard something that was a little bit different. It was a little bit more on the retail side, or want to call it available at Best Buy, what the exact words. So something. Here's what I don't want to do ultimately is say, oh, here's the limit, here's $1, here's $1 amount, and we go find out that on the retail side, some of the things that we were thinking aren't being addressed, and all of a sudden come back and then we got to do a medium. I think that we're going to spend more time, and I'm not really excited about it. So I'd rather put a little top end on it and then say, let's investigate some of these things. And similar to the comments that were made at linkage, some of the comments were start with this and then down the road, if we want to expand it based on feedback, then do that. So what I'm really saying is I don't want to force a limitation. So I'm kind of disagreeing with you from Hardy. I don't want to force a limitation that forces us to meet again to go ahead and pull a trigger, if you want to call it that, to go ahead and do it. I don't want to force that limitation. Or I don't want to force a requirement that, well, we did a little bit of investigation and these things won't integrate with it. There's some things that won't happen. We have a couple of estimates, on one camera and two camera that will really address the things that we're looking for. And we had another alternative that was presented, and I would rather have our IT folks make sure that kind of drill down that to make sure it meets the needs of, again, capturing the monitors, capturing the folks up here. So I want to make sure had a couple of things that we looked at. My threshold was around that $26,000. It doesn't mean that that's what we're going to spend. It doesn't mean that that's what we're going to spend. Maybe I think differently because I'm so used to saying, "Do we want to do? Let's go." Doesn't mean we're going to spend that, but I don't want us to keep coming back.
I would say that part of it, that 2-camera, here's part of the issue. That 2-camera option that we had, I would imagine there might be some wiggle room in some of these because the 2-camera option also included the option for the video that's on the screen up here to be captured in rather than train a camera on the screen. So it would be mixed in and it could be toggled back and forth, so when it's broadcast, you could actually focus the whole screen on it, and then it could go back to the speaker, it could go back and forth. So that might be part of why that cost is a little higher. Ms. Kuzer's not available tonight for us to ask that question of. But one of the other things is, I heard that it was important to people that they could follow along the screen, but with board docs, if you're watching a video, everything that we're talking about that's being broadcast up here is coming from board docs. You could split your own screen, or you could have a 2-screen, or you could do whatever you want to, or you could stop the video and go and look at it. You can pull up those agenda items and follow along. So perhaps we don't need that. Perhaps all we need is a camera that would be trained on the podium and a camera that would be trained on us. And at that point, that option might be a little less expensive than the $26,000. I guess what I'm saying is there's not just 2 or 3 options, there's probably 6 or 8 different options, you know what I mean? By the time you combine, it's like when you buy a car, you've got this combination and this package, and you could take that off, and I imagine that's probably what we're looking at here. But just the single camera option, which again, to Mr. Gregory's, back to the parameters conversation we had, the estimates that we got include the brackets, they include the Ethernet cable installation. They include, there's some things that are included there that are things, as you said, we don't want to create a technology room and forget to put the HVAC in. So that's what's around this, but that single camera option was costed out to us at $28.90. So that was one option, was simply a camera trained on the board. Perhaps we could ask for a 2-camera option that doesn't have all of the Cadillac information and you don't get the screen, and people would have to go to board docs and look at the information and follow it along with the discussion if they had questions about it. That might be a way for us to do something less, and I don't know. I think we're grasping at straws here. For me, probably the dollar figure would be not to exceed $10,000, with an understanding that it's going to be less than that. And so that might meet more of our need to try to keep this less expensive, but also try to do something that's acceptable quality, that people can actually see, and that the sound quality is good. Because some of the comments that were made, Mr. Esty shared during the linkage that a few people commented on what they saw on his video, and the comments that he received, he said, were concerning. Maybe they couldn't hear as well as they'd like to, maybe they couldn't see as much as they'd like to. So I do think that there is a point at which people will be frustrated if we don't give them good enough quality. They can see, they don't need the Cadillac version, but we have to make sure that we meet a threshold of quality, and that's where, we're now beyond my pay grade. I don't know what that is. So, I guess, so I'm just trying to figure out, does $10,000 give you heartburn? That's my question.
A little bit, but I could live with that. I would rather be under 5,000, but I could live with 10,000. And what I would like to do is we just say, let's go ahead with this, let's be done, let's find, option that lives within that, and whatever that is. And if it's 1 camera or 2 cameras, personally, I don't think we need to see the face of the person right there. I think you just have to see who it is, and you can see from behind that it's Mr. Gregory or it's Miss Steele,
They might not like it if it's going like that.
Well, it is in the corner, way off, but, and again, they can, if we can show the handouts within that budget, then let's do it. Otherwise, it's on board docs, the budgets are right there, and then the handouts are right there on board docs. And so I would rather be 5,000 or less. If it comes to an agreement and be done, I'll say, okay, we'll take that 10,000, but.
Or with the target trying to. Mrs. Johnson?
That's my point.
Oh, well, perhaps we can take a page from Mr. Gregory's earlier presentation on the fairness formula. Instead of using a number, use adjectives such as the most economical way of achieving the means that we hope to accomplish, which are to present an accurate viewing of the board meeting. I mean, maybe we just use words to say we expect this to be done at the most economical, or the appropriate amount of money, not to something. Use words instead of numbers, because $26,000 does sound like a lot, but I understand it, again, the same premise. Well, I don't want to limit what people are looking at and accomplishing. But I think if you just state that you want to accomplish this for the most responsible use of public funds, you're saying the same thing. You don't have to say, could you? I mean, can't you just say, please make this the most appropriate use of funds possible?
I agree with that. I think that is always an assumption whenever we direct the superintendent to do anything with this cabinet. I think that's an assumption. And the reason we do have to give them a dollar amount is because we have to give them a parameter at which they cannot exceed. So basically the idea is, yeah, good quality might be 14,000. So at that point, are we okay with that or not? Well, I think we have to put, if we're going to vote on this and we're going to put it in a resolution, which I would like to do here in a moment, it's going to have to say at a cost not to exceed. And that's why I said, could we live with 10,000? Because I would hope it would be less than that. Because I would suggest in our motion that we talk about investigating retail available systems. So therefore, hopefully it would be less. But if it comes out at more than 10,000, then they would have to come back to us. As Mr. Streep said, we don't want to pin them into the point where they can't take action now. We want this dollar amount to be high enough that the action can be taken. Because the bottom line is, while this is important and it's a cost of doing business, this is not the main thing we're here for. And I think we've all agreed we're spending too much time on it. We have to move forward. But we also have to give the superintendent, I think, a parameter. It's not fair to hope that, you know what I mean, that they would understand what we think is reasonable. So if that's, and the reason I'm asking about that is I'm getting ready to move a motion, and by the way, we can amend it. I mean, we can do that during discussion.
Well, Robert's rule, we need to make sure that we make the motion to amend the agenda so we can take a vote.
Yes, and that's what I plan to do. Are you ready for me to do that? Or are we
Remember,
still?
after every motion and second, then you always have discussion.
We can keep talking.
Discuss it, but my gosh, we've been doing this for 3 minutes now.
Yeah, we need to move on. Okay.
Well, I know, but this one is 30 minutes.
So
Okay.
I move that we amend the agenda to vote on purchasing and installing video equipment for the purpose of video recording regular Board of Education meetings.
I have a motion on the floor. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call.
Oh, wait, just say that again, please, sorry. I'm
Sorry. I made the motion to amend the agenda to vote on purchasing and installing video equipment for the purpose of video recording regular Board of Education meetings. Well,
This is Robert's rules, take a motion.
we're voting on amending the agenda right now, because we can't just throw out a resolution once we amend the agenda to do it.
So we have a motion on the floor, we have a second? I didn't hear any discussion. Roll call, please.
Can I just read it back just to make sure?
Yes, please.
Amend the agenda to vote on purchasing and installing video equipment for the purpose of recording Board of Education meetings. Is that okay, Ms. Mayor?
I believe so.
Right.
Regular Board of Education meetings.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bullock?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Street?
Aye.
Mrs. Van Mater? Aye. Thank you. Now at this point, I'm gonna pass down something that I put together. And again, this is me putting something together here, just so that we have a framework to talk about it in case we wanted to move this motion. That's why also we didn't, that's why I made the motion to amend the agenda, because I wasn't entirely sure, you know, based on what came out of the linkage, what we might want to do tonight. So I simply put all this together. Now, let me read it to you, and there's going to be some changes to this, so this, because this was a wild guess, okay? So, resolved that the Academy School District 20 Board of Education directs the superintendent to oversee the purchase and installation of video equipment for the purpose of video recording regular Board of Education meetings by October 30th, 2016, at a cost not to exceed $10,000. Now, we're going to insert something right here. After that comma, we're going to insert another clause. To investigate retail available systems and consult the board president prior to purchase, comma, to ensure such installation will allow stationary views of the entire seated Board of Education and any member of the community who speaks from the podium, cause such video recordings to be made available to the public in a timely fashion via the district's website, and monitor and report to the board at least annually the viewing history of such videos by members of the public, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education will redirect existing funds within its budget for this purpose and make the appropriate modifications to board policy. So, I'm moving the motion.
We have a motion. I don't know what, I just want to say what she said. I can read it all again. Essentially, it's the purchase video to direct the superintendent. Direct the superintendent to
Yes.
do this, and not later than, because we have to put framework around it. We have financial framework, we have timeline framework, and of course, we can always say if it comes in less, we know it comes in less expensive.
Well, and you also have, because it just says allow them to see the board and any member of the community who speaks, it doesn't necessarily have to be their face.
That's true.
Be the back of their head.
It could be a side view, it could be, it just,
Yes.
yeah, that's true. I just don't want it to be like some disembodied voice out there somewhere. My preference would be that it's, that you could see someone's face, but if, again, yeah, we don't wanna lock them into that for $10,000. Let me give them some room to move.
Remember, Andrew said check out retail, because that's one thing that came out of the linkage, that we had some numbers that we looked at, which were very, again, the professional level stuff, pictures of the quality and so on and so forth was there, and the retail opportunity was presented, or was mentioned at linkage, and so that's why you threw that in there. So it's not in there. Well, I have a motion, we square on the motion on what it is. I have a motion, let me get a second.
Second.
Second. Discussion. Here's your opportunity to discuss this some more. I think we actually have a discussion already. Okay, discussion. Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I was just gonna take advantage since I wasn't able to attend the linkage, but I have been party to numerous discussions, and I appreciate the discussion. I think that goes to the very heart of all of this, especially the transparency that's involved. I'm gonna be honest in that I did not find the contentions of convenience and lack of great expense very compelling in terms of actually moving forward on this. And I also did not truly believe that this was about transparency. I felt like it was more an effort to derail and discredit District 20 and the bond. That being said, I am planning on voting for this because there was a very compelling reason to move forward with video recording and expanding the options to communicate with our community presented this evening with the parents from DCC. If there are areas that we can improve our communication and help everyone know that the aims and goals of District 20 are quite high and they concern the well-being of our entire community. And that's what we are about, not about special interests in any form or fashion. Therefore, because I think this supports all of those very valid reasons, I'm pleased to proceed further with this.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bullock?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Street?
Aye.
Mrs. Van Meter?
Aye.
You know, if I could just real quickly, this will be a fun project for our folks. So we'll look forward to working on this.
That's good. And we need to get, who is it that's in charge of the retirement banquet that is like super, was that Kathy? Saxon needs to work on this.
Unfortunately, you can't buy this stuff at Dollar Tree, but that's okay.
That is pretty late.
She is like my bosom friend.
Okay.
She's awesome.
The 20 TV folks will like this. Absolutely.
Was our business this evening focused on activities that will promote academic achievement and the development of talents? Oh, I'm sorry.
Before you debrief, just a couple of things were brought up earlier. What are we going to do about the discovery thing, and just a couple of specific things. First of all, somebody said that our list deviates significantly from the committees. I was actually looking through that, and it actually doesn't. It's just that some things are put in different places. Like, for instance, schools may have asked for a better front entryway. That's funded. It just isn't in the 25, or things are kind of rearranged. Are we going to answer that somehow and get that out?
Absolutely.
Second thing is that somebody said that we didn't have, it was Mrs. Van Meter talked about that we didn't have the detailed report. I'm not sure they're talking about this. I think they're talking about this. Because when I got the email and it said click here and I click there, this doesn't pop up. So I don't know if this has been posted, and maybe that's a good thing, because maybe we need to hold off until we can take care of Discovery Canyon issue. But I'm not sure that this is out to the community, and if it is, maybe it needs to be a little more obvious, like on the front page of the district website. Very big button that says, this is what this bond is going to fund, and these are the details. And then, like Mrs. Van Meter was saying, and then if they have, and when they get to the school fairness formula, then they can click on something that takes them to what the school has asked for, with a caveat that this may change, this will be based on what your school decides, this is their preliminary. Anyhow, I'm not sure, I think this is what they were talking about. I'm not sure this is accessible to the public. That's my second thing. And then my third thing is explaining TCA, how we came to that amount.
Well, yeah, absolutely, in conjunction, they made comments and people were asking the question and want responses, and Dr. Hatchell, Supervisor, and myself will start answering those questions, because there's been a lot of emails flying back and forth, and there's
I
certain
guess
data that's inaccurate, and we need to make sure all of that information I was surprised to hear the conversation about there's no pool anywhere. I thought it was about as apparent as can be, but if there's something that we're not quite seeing, then we need to make sure that we provide information, so we will definitely respond.
Because I think, like I said, this didn't show up in the,
Yeah.
I think that's what they're saying, but also, like, you say you're going to answer, but you might answer the person who asked the question, but I feel that these need to be publicly answered, explained, so I don't know how we're going to do that.
And Dr. Hatchell is very supportive.
Okay, and then also, so what are we going to do about discovery? Are we going to need to talk about that?
Haven't decided that. Haven't decided that whether it's a work session or it comes up as part of the board meeting. Haven't decided that. Part of the conversation is we need to start more of the conversation with DCC, and Dr. Hatchell and Mr. Gregory have been doing that extensively for the last couple of days since it's kind of come to the surface, and we need to work with them on from our perspective, what direction we want to take. So we have to have that conversation, and that involves the conversation. We heard them, we have to respond back to them now, and we will definitely do that. Again, it's a conversation with Dr. Hatcher, Mr. myself, and some of the folks that,
So,
yeah, and
yeah,
we'll have to
that-
bring
that
all of that
was-
back together, absolutely, but I don't know what that form looks like yet. I don't know if it's another work session that we bring back, but we need to, as you saw, there was a few different efforts, there was a few different conversations. Ms. Mammy had brought up one that bleachers. So I received some emails that dealt with bleachers, thinking, well, it's right there. And so I think
Well,
there's some misunderstandings.
it's right there, but again, DCC High School only got $500,000, and there's, is $500,000 enough to fund these things? I don't
And
know
that's
what
what-
teachers thought, I don't know. how
Yeah,
much.
and I don't know, they were in fundraising things, so those, some of the things that we need to have a conversation about is what does some of that look like and what are the alternatives that we have, because there's money that they are getting, while they say it's 500,000 at the high school level, and aggregate is 1.1 at the entire school, and while I realize that folks sometimes will say, well, here's an elementary school, a middle school, there's 3 different schools. One of the reasons you build that is so you end up having a few economies and efficiencies. One of the things that we wanted to make sure is that operating at the campus, and I realize someone says tonight that's 3 separate schools, but if they're operating as a campus, I think there's some decision making that they can possibly make with that 1.1. And so they
Yes,
might.
yes, and now I'm a little worried that the elementary school is gonna end up with nothing.
Well, I think
Which is kind of unfortunate for them.
one of the things that's happening as well, I know Dr. Hatchell has met with them, with some folks, and Mr. Gregory has met with some of the folks. I think there's maybe a bigger conversation, or the conversation that has is what's the definition, we have to have the conversation too about how all that happened. Again, I don't know if it's another work session that we have a conversation where we bring it up in a board meeting. I don't know exactly what that really needs to look like.
I just feel like we need to solve it quickly, because the longer this goes on, the more bad publicity.
Absolutely.
It's getting out there, and the quicker we can resolve this, then the quicker we can get our friends on the north end back on our good side. And I can get all my friends back.
And folks in my church.
Yeah.
We did